Hello, everybody. It's time for another Power Hour. I've tried to have the Power Hours for the sing along where everybody dials in, and they have not come to fruition for the past couple of weeks. Part of that, of course, is the fires causing all kinds of havoc and people with power outages. And some of it is people want to see the recordings, but they don't want to participate in the chat. So, what I'm doing instead now is having good friends come in and have a chat with me. My very best friend, a brother from another mother, is Distinguished Toastmaster, past Toastmaster of the Year, Toastmaster for nigh on 2 decades, Mr. Brendan James Murphy, who has graciously agreed to join me this evening to talk about the fun of getting outside the four walls of your club. Brendan, I turn it over to you.
Thank you, Mr. Dawson, and once again, and recognizing Dennis being a distinguished Toastmaster, an excellent speaker, a wonderful technical writer, and in case you might not recognize it, he's also a fantastic volunteer Santa for Christmas in the Park in San Jose. But in addition to all that, he's a past district governor of District 57. So we're lucky to have him continuing to contribute to the district, and I'm so grateful to be invited to this Power Hour. Thank you, Dennis Dawson.
Let me just interrupt before you get started, because you know that I like to interrupt you.
Yes, all the time.
Do you know how I got involved with the district, Brendan?
I've heard this story once or twice, and actually I want to hear that story later on in this presentation.
The seed that made me want to get involved outside of the club was planted at the very first TLI that I attended. And I saw somebody get up and talk about the Distinguished Club program. Do you remember who that was that day?
Oh, was that Nicole?
No, it was Brendan James Murphy.
Great guy, great guy.
I saw you up there and I said, you know, I could do that if he could do that. And I would really enjoy getting up in front of the group and having the opportunity to be as encouraging and motivational and inspirational as that guy, Brendan Murphy, who I did not know at the time.
You missed a few adjectives along the way, but I'll catch those later. As you can see, it is fun to work with Dennis Dawson, and that's another reason I'm happy to be here tonight. And I'm excited that this recording will go viral to the world at large in just a few minutes. But before it goes viral, we have to tell you about going beyond our club. This is part of the successful club series which Toastmasters put together to help others make your club the best it can be. And then this module comes along and it says, okay, you have a successful club, now get out of that, go beyond that. And it seems a little ironic, but remember, Toastmasters is where we practice. We live what Toastmasters teaches when we go outside of our four walls of our club. And in Toastmasters itself, there's a chance for us to dip our toe outside the club in what is still a safe environment, but also a different way of growing for your club. So what tonight we're going to do, we're going to talk a little bit about speech contests, leadership opportunities, and conferences and conventions to show you what's available within Toastmasters. But before we get that, we're going to practice our tagline. And thank God I have my audience member here named Dennis Dawson. Here's the important point you need to take away from this session. If you get everything you can out of Toastmasters, you'll never get out of Toastmasters. So we're going to practice that with audience repetition here on that second line. You ready, audience?
Yes.
If you get everything you can out of Toastmasters, you'll
never get out of Toastmasters.
Okay, so remember that line. It may come back in this presentation. Going beyond the club, because you can get so much out of Toastmasters in the organization once you move past your club. So thank you, Dennis, so much. Appreciate everybody's patience as we experience a little technical difficulty here.
They won't know. They won't know. I'm editing it out. They'll never see it.
You got it, sir. With that, we're going to go beyond our club. And the first way to go beyond our club is into speech contest. Now, when you talk about a speech contest, you have to know that Toastmasters has official contests which it provides support for in all of its regions and clubs and districts. And here I'm going to ask my audience member, what are those contest names, those official Toastmasters contests? Mr. Audience, please tell me what those contests are.
Okay, well, there are 5 official Toastmasters contests: the International Speech Contest, the Humorous Speech Contest, the Evaluation Contest, Table Topics, and Tall Tales. Any district has to do International Speech Contest. They can do one of the others as an official Toastmasters contest event. So that's going to vary between the different districts. In District 57, we've chosen to do the International Speech Contest and the Evaluation Contest.
Yes. Nicely done, Mr. Audience. So when you have a chance to enter a speech contest, do it. Do it because you learn and grow in a different way than just doing a speech that is related to a project within your club. You do the same speech again and again, and you practice it again and again, and that gives you a different experience in public speaking than what we normally experience in Toastmasters, where you do a different speech 1 month after the next. That's a great way to learn how to speak, but this way of being a contestant helps you grow in that special way of practicing your words and rewriting and editing. Remember, great speeches aren't written, they are rewritten. So you want to jump in as a contestant, and if you get past your club, you go to the next level, and we'll look at that now. But this is so important for you to say, yes, I want to go beyond the club. One easy way to do that, start with your contest. So be a contestant whenever you can in those contests that Janice just mentioned.
Now, before you go on,
Yes, sir.
I have a little correction for you there.
Yes, sir.
You implied that you can't get credit in Pathways for doing the same speech twice. Some of the Pathways lessons actually have you do that early on, but any speech that fits with a particular lesson can be repeated. So if you do one that's Find Your Funny Bone,
Yep.
and it's a humorous speech, that's fine. If you have another one that's on vocal variety, another one on gestures, as long as the speech fits the lesson, you can apply it. Now, in my case, every time I have practiced for a contest, I've practically filled out a CC manual. The only lessons I couldn't do were if it wasn't an inspirational speech, if it was a humorous speech that really didn't have that inspirational element, I couldn't use it there, and I couldn't use it for the visual aids lesson, but I could use it for all the others. That's the reason I have 7.5 CCs at this point.
Yes.
Yeah, so don't ever believe that you can't repeat speeches in Toastmasters. It's perfectly okay, and that comes directly from Toastmasters International.
And wise words from Mr. Dawson himself.
Wise guy.
I will stand by my original statement that we Toastmasters want you to do new speeches on a regular basis, but contests are different where you focus on that one speech. With what Dennis said is very well taken, but that idea of working one speech again and again and again, not just twice in the Pathways format, but again and again, you learn so much by doing that. And Dennis, as a technical writer, will tell you so much of the writing happens after you receive feedback from one speech event. So it's a good way to learn your craft as a public speaker and taking your written speech to the next level and truly bringing it live. So that's a contestant, but there's other roles, especially the MC, also known as the Toastmaster of the contest. You may think, oh, hey, it's just like being at a club. It is not. Contests have a more formal setting, and that formality is due to fairness. We attempt to have fairness in the contest, so an MC is somewhat stiff very formal, but that's also a great learning skill. Yeah, the club Toastmaster talks about Hawaii night and wears a lei and a grass skirt. That's fun. But often in business, you need to be more formal. So outside of the club, you get this chance to be an MC at a contest. You're also going to get that formal chance at work or in professional situations or community situations where you have to be the master of ceremonies. Sometimes you need a degree of formality. You get to practice it here. I am a scrum master for Stanford School of Medicine, and I get in trouble when my facilitation is less formal. I am safe when I'm more formal and imply fairness to all sides. I've learned a lot of that by being a contest MC. Dennis, have you ever been a contest MC?
I have, not at the district level, but up through division. And it's true that you have to be very formal during the contest, but you also have to be scintillating and entertaining before the contest and then when you're interviewing the contestants after. So you get a little both.
Nice. Good point there. Now you would think, oh, we need judges for a contest, but who wants to be a judge? I want to be a contestant. You are wrong when you think that. Dennis, may I get your permission to go away from the slides?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay, let me see if I can do that here. Alrighty. I'm going to bring up something I found online here. This is the humorous judge's ballot for the humorous speech contest. And I want to highlight this because when you're a judge, you have to look at this ballot and fill it out using your best qualitative analysis to determine the numbers that you would assign for these different categories. And what is important, why you do this, you learn about these categories and you learn about how they're balanced. When we talk about the humorous speech contest, it is the guideline. If you ever want to be a professional speaker, you would need to have this because professional speakers need to have humor if they ever want to get paid, but they also need to speak about a serious topic, something of value. So you need to combine that value with that humor and that audience response. And this ballot shows you precisely what you need to do. And when you judge according to this ballot, you grow as a judge. So this gives you that chance to analyze somebody else. And when you go back and you're working on your own speech, this same kind of material will help you analyze how well you can do. And Dennis, do you know anybody who's recently won a humorous speech contest?
Well, I did, in fact, win a humorous speech contest with my very valuable speech over in District 101, for those of you who are watching in District 57.
And it's so important. I did this twice. I got to the finals twice. The first time I told a silly tale with no value. I got some laughs, but I didn't win, get second or third. I don't know where I finished, but the thing was I didn't follow this ballot. And the second time I did it, I talked about a time I was stuck in an elevator. There was a lot of humor in there, but less laughs than my first speech. And the reason why I won at that contest, I believe, is because my speech actually had value, a lesson to be learned. So when you're a judge, you get to apply this analysis to a speaker and grow at the same time. Let's see if we can get back to...
And let's face it, Brendan, if you've ever attended a speech contest and you say, why the heck did they pick that guy?
Yep.
That's because you weren't a judge.
Yes.
Yeah. So one of the reasons to be a judge is so that we have good judges.
And you learn in the process. So once again, whether you're a contestant, an MC, a judge, or you're a counter. Now, Dennis, how can you learn by being a ballot counter at a speech contest?
That's an interesting question. Would you share your screen as I talk about how to be a ballot counter?
You know what? I think I should share my screen right now. I thought I had.
So I had plenty of opportunity to be a ballot counter for contests. And the nice thing about that is You get to go in the back room and you get to look at how the judges made their decisions. I learned a great deal about how to win contests, and I also learned about some of the problems that we had with the judges in the contests. And it changed the way, as a chief judge, I would instruct the judges for the contest to be sure that they were following that ballot that you just showed us, and paid attention to not just who had the funniest speech or the most laughs, but who had a speech that had value. Yeah. One of the big mistakes that they often made was that someone would come in, perhaps English wasn't their first language, they might have struggled with some pronunciation. Well, sure, it's okay to take some points off, maybe 5 points, but you don't say you lose because I couldn't understand a word or two in your speech. And so being a ballot counter gives you a lot of insight on how the judges make their decisions, how that has an impact on the results of the contest, and how that actually affects people's lives.
Nice, nice. And I know you've done that many a times and learned from it, and appreciate that, and appreciate everybody else getting a chance to learn as a ballot counter. Once again, you're thinking, oh, a ballot counter, how do I learn? Well, Dennis just showed how that happens. What about timers? Well, learning to keep a contest on time is very important, and this is an official part of how people qualify to be eligible for winning a contest. The timers have to be very specific. They have to know when to start, when to stop, and they need to report everything accurately and fairly. So once again, we're going to be fair to all contestants. Dennis, when does a timer start the timing for a contest speech?
That would be at the first utterance or the first obvious gesture toward the audience, the first type of communication, verbal or nonverbal, directed at the audience.
Yeah. And getting that sense of time is something we learn in Toastmasters, regular meetings, but especially at contests where it's just a little bit more formal. I'll tell you this, as a Scrum Master here at work, I use a lot of timing procedures to keep my meetings to end on time and, of course, to start on time. And every once in a while, we'll have some people who last a little bit too long in their explanation, and I'll use my Zoom link to send a little message. Hey, you're running out of time. We only have 5 minutes left. Can you wrap it up? But being aware of time and communicating time parameters is something that you learn in a special way in a contest. And then we also have the sergeant at arms. Now, the sergeant at arms at a contest helps make sure that there's fairness by reducing distractions. And in the evaluation contest that we'll have in spring, sergeant at arms controls the contestants who go out of the room, write their notes, and then he takes away their notes so that we bring people back in sequence and they only get their notes when they come back in. That way, the first person who goes gets treated the same as the last person who goes in the contest. Once again, these subtle ways of keeping order make your meetings better. Back to work for me, Sergeant at Arms. I have to reduce distractions. I mind the door, make sure the chairs and facilities are there, and that the people all are welcome and are kept in good order while we discuss serious stuff. The reason why I'm paid is I am a timer. I am a sergeant at arms. I am an MC. I also judge things a little bit along the way. All those skills I've learned from speech contests, going outside my club, the contests make a big difference. Dennis, what else about the sergeant at arms in contests?
Well, one thing about all of these roles is if you're personally a shy person and you're not the person who wants to be a contestant, or you don't want to be one of the MC of the contest, these other behind the scenes roles are really important to be done well. And you can take a lot of pride if you're the timer and it comes off without a hitch. The only time anybody notices counters, timers, or sergeant at arms is if they make a mistake. If you're completely invisible, you've done a perfect job.
Gotcha. And once again, you put it a good point. You're stretching your skills because of the degree of formality for the fairness we're trying to obtain. That's the difference there. And you stretch your skills in that little way. And you grow not only as a Toastmaster, but as a leader and a communicator outside the club. And the final role is interesting as well. It's an audience member. So your club meets on Wednesday night and there's a contest on Thursday. You're like, well, I don't want to go to no silly contest. What you do is you go and you learn. And you learn because you step back and you judge for yourself who's your favorite speaker of that contest. And you compare your results to what the judges say, and that gets you thinking. And that analysis is part of your growth as well. You applaud, you encourage, and you learn a lot just by being an audience member. Once again, you learn a lot in the Toastmasters Club. You learn a lot, but a different lot in a contest. Dennis, anything else about contests and the audience?
Also, a kindness to the contestants is to have plenty of people sitting out there. It's ironic that many times an area contest is better attended than a division contest. That's because there are fewer clubs with people in the contest at that point.
Yep.
If your club doesn't happen to have a representative in the division contest, it's great to show up anyway. Not only are you going to see better speakers, the speakers will perform better because there are more people out there to appreciate them.
What is the most important role in Toastmasters? Not officer role, the most important role in Toastmasters.
Member.
Member, absolutely. The entire organization exists to serve the growth of the member. And within that organization, there's the club, which contains the member, and then underneath the club, there's different levels of leadership. And they all are servant leaders that support the member by supporting the club. And we're going to go through these leadership opportunities which are available to you and give you a special chance to learn. Now, the first area of leadership opportunity is, in fact, the area itself, and that is usually led by an area director. And Dennis, do you know anybody who missed out on being an area director?
Well, you and me.
Yes, indeed. Very funny, sir, indeed. Dennis tried to be an area director, but he was promoted to division director instead because that was vacant. But the area director gets a chance to support the 5 or 6 clubs in his or her area. And it is an amazing learning experience by going to these different clubs and learning about them. You increase your network, you meet new people. You're growing in your Toastmasters skills, but you're also especially growing in your communication skills. Not because you're given a speech at every place. No, you're giving a little comment about the Distinguished Club program or the recent membership contest that's available out there. You're encouraging people to do that. You're giving the same bits of information again, or maybe a little bit of Q&A, but you're standing up and speaking at all of these clubs. And that is helpful as well. There's also something that is akin to a push-pull that area governors do. And Dennis, what is that?
That would be the area governor report. Area director report.
Yes.
I'm old. Yeah. And so the area director report reflects almost precisely the club success plan. They're going to come in and ask who's going to be earning the educational awards. When are you going to have your open house so that you can bring in those members? Did everybody turn in their dues and their officer lists on time? Once they get the answers to those questions, they put it into the area director report, and they are going to then be able to help the club to ensure that it is a distinguished club. Not because having a pretty ribbon is important, but the things that go into being a distinguished club, the attraction of new members, the earning of educational awards, and handling your administrative tasks are the most important things to keep a club alive and thriving.
Absolutely. And in addition to that, when you as an area director go in and do this polling and analysis based on the area director's report, you grow in your ability to lead not just a Toastmasters organization, but any organization, because the principles that we use to run clubs and our organization are applicable outside of Toastmasters in and of themselves. Once again, just like being an audience member or a judge in a contest, you're analyzing the situation, and in that analysis, you grow, both as a communicator and a leader. And one key thing about being an area director as well as a division director, that type of leadership is advisory. You are not the president of the club. That's the leader of the club. You go in there to advise. You don't go in there to supervise. And that kind of leadership skill is very valuable in our world today. There's a lot of people who have formal leadership, but those people need advisors, and all organizations need advice and opinion from an outside perspective. So you go in there, advise and consult, and you grow in the process. Then we come to division directors. In addition to being advisors, what do division directors do, Dennis?
Well, the division director is there to advise the area directors. Typically, a division director has been an area director and understands that role well, so they can give guidance to the area directors. They can also step in when the area director hasn't been selected or isn't available for certain clubs at certain times.
It's very important to say, okay, the consultants need some degree of support as they go out and they try to influence the clubs in their areas, and the division directors do that as well. Another level of leadership practice for you, and a great way to learn by going beyond the club.
There's one thing that you haven't mentioned about being an area director that I think is terribly important.
Please go, sir.
Yes, I enjoy going to my Toastmasters meetings. Do you like going to Toastmasters meetings, Brendan?
I do enjoy going to Toastmasters meetings.
So if you enjoy going to one Toastmasters meeting, why wouldn't you enjoy going to 5 or 6 different Toastmasters meetings?
Of course you will.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun. And if you don't walk in there with an attitude, I'm superior, I am the boss of you, if you go in there and say, hi, I am here to have fun and see how your meeting is running. I'm here to give you support. I'm here to help you to do better, and we'll have a chat after the meeting. People are going to be happy to have you there. Over in District 101, one of my clubs has got an area director who visits our club every 2 weeks just because he enjoys coming to our meetings.
It is fun. And as a reminder, what Smedley said, we learn best in times of enjoyment, and that's what Toastmasters attempts to embody. And these leadership opportunities are meant to be enjoyable as well as a path for growth. And one thing that we encourage everybody to do is consider being a district leader. And Dennis, do you know anybody who's been a district leader?
We have different flavors of district leader here in this particular meeting. I happen to have been a division director, then I skipped directly to the club quality director, skipping the club expansion chair. Or is that right? Yeah, club expansion.
Club growth.
Club growth, that's right. Club growth director. Skipped that role because, again, the person who would have taken that role was not, the person who would have been the club quality director decided not to go for it. So I charged forward, and then I became the division director, or the district director, the following year.
And what did you learn by being the leader of a district with over 150 clubs and over 2,000 Toastmasters?
You learn that you are not the boss of anybody. You cannot tell anybody to do anything. The only thing you can do is influence. And what you do is you find out what a person's goals are, compare those goals with what is needed in the district, match those skills and their goals to the work that needs to be done, and people are happy then to take ownership and get the work done. So in a way it's herding cats, but mostly it's just talking to people, understanding what they would like to contribute and then giving them permission to do it.
Yeah, yeah. And I have not rose to the district leadership levels of Dennis, but I've learned a lot by talking to him. One of my favorite phrases that he uses is, what do leaders do? They open the doors, turn on the lights, greet the people, and then after the people do all this amazing stuff, the district leaders turn off the lights, close the doors, and go away. That the idea of delegating to others is a key fact of leadership. And here's the secret. You cannot be one of those top 3 district leaders without delegating. You can't do it and be successful, and you can't do it and be sane unless you delegate. And this is another way of learning by going beyond the club. So leadership, hey, maybe you join Toastmasters to be a better communicator. But these leadership opportunities help you grow as a communicator because you're speaking all the time, and it also helps you grow as a leader, learning especially how to delegate. So that's a leadership opportunity in our local district, but there's more leadership opportunities beyond, and that includes the Toastmasters Board of Directors. And to join the Toastmasters Board of Directors, you need to win the contest, the election for an international director position. There's another position as well connected with the Board of Directors, and that's, I believe, the regional advisor as well. So those kind of positions are bigger leadership positions, and as opposed to just staying within your local district, you travel throughout your region, and of course, you're part of the international efforts to keep Toastmasters growing both in quantity and quality. That's very important. Dennis, why would anybody in the world want to join the board of directors of Toastmasters International?
It's wonderful if you can help somebody in the club to achieve their pathway award level 3. That's great. You're going to get a wonderful warm feeling. Imagine having the opportunity to shape how Pathways goes, to take this program, which is getting better by the day, taking your experience and helping Pathways to serve literally hundreds of thousands of people. That's what the board of directors can do.
Yeah. So here you are in Toastmasters, and you have these amazing leadership opportunities to go way beyond the club, both in terms of the number of people you meet and the geography you may travel. It's fantastic, and it's all done within that environment of support and appreciation for being a volunteer in our organization and helping everybody grow. Because the board of directors supports the district supports the division supports the area supports what, Dennis?
The club, and the club supports
the member. And that is that inverse pyramid of support for our individual Toastmasters. These things are needed because of the size of our organization and the fact that we're constantly growing and changing things and trying to improve on how we help people develop communication and leadership skills. And if you're a volunteer leader and part of that, you will benefit. You're not just serving others, you're serving yourself. And remember, if you want to learn everything there is to learn in Toastmasters, you want to get everything out of Toastmasters, what happens? You'll
never get out of Toastmasters.
That's right. So we've got you for the rest of your life learning and growing, and there's so much more to do along the way. There is international leadership by the international vice presidents and the international president, and that's a great way to serve, and that those people are connected with the board of directors. It's just another way of being a leader and really expanding your base. But before you get to those positions, you work your way up through these kind of leadership areas and grow as a leader and as a communicator before you lead an organization. Dennis?
The interesting thing here, though, you talk about these roles and all of these highfalutin titles that go along with them. Isn't it possible to serve the district without having any title at all?
And we go back to leadership in both formal and informal. What we're talking about here are formal designations of leaders with specific goals and objectives. But everybody's a leader. If you are a member of a Toastmasters club, you have chosen to grow. By doing that, as opposed to sitting home and watching everything you can on cable or satellite, you have said, I'm not going to sit home tonight. I've had a rough day at work. Instead, I'm going to celebrate my life by going to Toastmasters. You choose to grow. By being there, you are leading yourself and influencing others. If you're a member of the club, if you're an officer in the club, you learn along the way. That's formal leadership as well. But people get other activities here. They may join a committee within Toastmasters, help out at different events within the organization. Those are all leadership opportunities. And once again, those are all growth opportunities.
You've been a major district leader in District 57 for 2 decades, Brendan, and you've never had those top 3 trio titles.
Right.
Have you ever even been a division director?
Nope.
Area director?
Nope.
No, and yet you're one of the keystones of the district.
Thank you, sir. And I would say whatever I've given to Toastmasters, I get back in so many ways. My clubs meet on Sunday night. It's the Laugh Lovers Club, and we alternate with the Tales and Tellers Storytime Club. By the way, shameless plug here. Sunday nights from 6 to 8 p.m. at the Concord Denny's on Willow Pass.
What a great club.
That shameless plug be there. But those skills I practice, storytelling and humor, I use the following Monday. And I need to use those skills the following Monday. And everything else I've learned by being an informal leader in the district has helped me in my current position today and my volunteer activities at church as well. So these are the types of things that you get an opportunity to learn within the organization, but beyond your club. Because if you want to get everything you can out of Toastmasters, you'll
never get out of Toastmasters. Never.
He's getting better, folks. All righty. So we want to talk quickly about conferences as leadership opportunities, not just something you attend. And Dennis, have you ever led a conference?
You know, I haven't actually been a conference chair. I've been the education chair a couple of times for the conference, but I'm too lazy to be an actual conference chair.
Too busy, you take it. Well, I know you've been a TLI chair as well.
Yep.
Those are the 2 big things that happen in District 57. Other areas might have, other districts might have different ways of formulating it. But being a leader at a conference as well, a leader at a TLI, what do you learn, Dennis, when you lead that?
Oh, you learn delegation. Oh, dear Lord. One of the most difficult things to do as a leader is to let people do things their way. And if you try to micromanage any process with putting together a conference, you will have the saddest life. You'll have the worst experience, and no one is going to enjoy it. But if you give people the support to do things the way that they think it should be done, and if they need a little guidance, you give them guidance early on so that you can both agree on the result. Then actually being a conference chair or education chair in my case is really very easy with very little work. It's just a great deal of communication.
Yeah. And I want to make a specific suggestion that everybody should lead a conference or be involved in the leadership of a conference or a TLI, because what happens is you become amazingly valuable outside of Toastmasters. You're going outside your club to lead a Toastmasters conference, and you think, oh, that's just to help other people. Well, I'm doing my service, get it over with. No, 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 no. You're going to be depended on at work, in your community, to put together conferences or seminars. It happened to me when I was working at AT&T. I had just finished my fall conference training. I had been a TLI chair learned a lot, failed a lot in those experiences, and I applied those to a conference at work, and I used the same kind of format, the same kind of decisions, the same kind of committees to lead that conference to much success and a big raise for me, because you got a chance to learn it. I got a chance to learn it by stepping up and going outside the club. Because if you want to learn everything you can at Toastmasters, you want to get everything you want out of Toastmasters, you'll
Never get out of Toastmasters.
oh man, the emotion of that was so amazing, Dennis. Thank you so much.
I,
All right.
I will also mention that one thing about conferences, being the conference chair, being behind the scenes and making it run, I actually prefer that to sitting and listening to people do their conference sessions.
Yeah.
I would rather be running it than be a participant. That has to do with my introverted nature.
Yes.
Yeah.
But introvert or not, we encourage you to go beyond the club by attending these conferences and conventions. And when you get there, you're going to learn by the seminars that people put on. Now, those seminars in our district, they are vetted. We just don't have people just sign up and because you're breathing, you're going to lead a seminar at a TLI or a conference. No. You go there and we make sure the presenters are quality and they will present the right material. At Toastmasters Leadership Institute, they have specific things they need to cover to make sure our officers and our clubs are trained. But at Toastmasters conferences in District 57, that takes place in the spring, the volunteers who lead there, they can talk on a variety of topics, but they need to be approved by the committee, the educational committees that lead that that conference. So those seminars, very important and indeed. Dennis, have you ever led a seminar?
Yes, I'm leading one tomorrow night, as a matter of fact. One that I have done at District 57 conferences in the past. I think I've done 6 conference presentations over the years.
Yeah.
And I would much rather lead a seminar than sit through one.
Gotcha. But either way, you're going beyond your club and you're growing in that way. And of course, the speech contest, we talked about what you can do as a role there. But when you go to a spring conference and you're in the audience and you see that high quality speech conference because people have won at their area, they've won at their club, they've won at their division, they've won these 3 levels. By the time they get there, these are the top 9 people in District 57. So these are the top 9 speakers in that particular area or that particular contest. And that's out of 2,500 people, 2,000 people. So these are high quality speakers. You're growing by attending that speech contest as well. Dennis, any other benefits for people going beyond their club and attending the spring conference to hear the speech contest?
Tchotchkes.
Yes, you get tchotchkes. All right. But you also get camaraderie. And it's neat to be with other people who are people of growth. Everybody goes to Toastmasters. They're not forced to be there. They want to be there, and they're there to grow. They have their own pathways in which they'd like to grow, but in being people of growth, they help others grow. And I don't just call it camaraderie. I call it networking, not idea sharing. When you meet other people at Toastmasters and talk about your club, or talk about what Toastmasters has done for you. Other people grow, and you grow in that way. Dennis, you get a lot out of speaking to people, but what about networking for you at these conferences and TLIs?
Well, honestly, I would rather speak to 1,000 people than walk through the crowd and shake hands with 1,000 people. That's my particular bent. However, when I go to a Toastmasters event, I get to see people of very high quality that I only get to see often because they're far flung throughout the district. Get to talk with these people and geek out about being a Toastmaster in a way that you can't anyplace else. My family doesn't want to hear about it. My coworkers don't necessarily want to hear about it. So being in a place with 300 people, all of whom are just really jazzed to be there and talk about Toastmasters. It's a great experience.
It is. And as you may notice, I'm an extrovert, Dennis is an introvert, and we approach things differently, but we grow by going beyond the club and grow in different ways as well.
We need to talk about the 110-1 ratio too.
Gotcha.
It's
Let's
wonderful.
talk about that now before I read the conclusion line.
Yeah, don't read this. Everybody close your eyes and don't read this.
You got it, sir. Okay, please.
Because we don't want you to know that you should take advantage of the learning and leadership options Toastmasters provides until we're ready to say this is the conclusion. All
Yes,
right?
indeed. So please go back and talk about it while I leave this slide up.
Just leave it right there.
Yeah.
But nobody read it.
Shh.
Okay. So here's the thing. We've got about 3,000 members in District 57. So that would be 100% of the membership. 10% of the membership, this is the 110 ratio, 10% of the membership actually participate outside of the club. And that's why you'll see about 300 people come to a conference. They're the people that are really jazzed. They're the ones who are taking advantage of all these things we're talking about. Then 1% of the membership are the people who kind of run everything. That's about 30 people in the district. Even though we've got 50 plus district leaders, there's a varying level of commitment and time that they have available to do things in Toastmasters. So the most fun you can have is being one of those 30 people who make everything run and keep everything greased. You certainly want to be one of the 300 Toastmasters.
Nice. Fantastic. All right. Before I finish things out here,
But don't say that because that's the end.
No. We have to do Q&A.
Oh.
We have 5 minutes of Q&A available now. So are there any questions that you think the audience would ask if they were with us here tonight, Dennis?
How do I get started outside of my club? What's available to me? Who do I talk to? What do I do?
You raise your hand. You raise your hand when the area director comes by and say, would anybody like to help me out with the area contest? And you raise your hand. You don't know what you're getting into, but you raise your hand. TLI says, we need people to greet others when they come. You raise your hand. Oh, we need somebody to help with serving food. You raise your hand. And by starting on that pathway with some very simple tasks at these events that take place outside the club, you start networking, you start observing, and you continue to grow. And you also see what might be an opportunity for you at the next Toastmasters Leadership Institute, the next contest, or the next spring conference.
And we teased that we were going to talk about how I got involved, and we didn't actually say it. I wanted to be in a contest. I couldn't get a hold of the area director. I got a hold of the division director, and she said, oh, yeah, it's this night, and you show up. So I did. The area director was, oh, well, what a surprise. We're glad that your club is represented. I was in the contest. I happened to win. But I asked the division director afterward, hey, how do you get to be an area director? I wouldn't want other people to go through the same rigmarole that I just went through just trying to get into a contest. She said, all you have to do is what, Brendan?
Raise your hand.
Raise your hand. That's all I had to do. I was going to be the area director, but again, I went to the conference. There was no division director candidate. What did I do? I raised my hand.
Yep.
And the rest is history.
That's right.
Very quickly shot through all of the roles because I really enjoyed the district leadership aspect of the organization. I never intended to be a district leader. I only wanted to be in contests, but it was the desire to serve other people so that they could have good contests that was the hook that got me in.
And that's a great story and a great example to everybody who's listening. The idea that some people go, oh yeah, I guess Toastmasters needs help. I'll be an area director. Next thing you know, they're excited about becoming district director or international director because they enjoy it so much. It's an amazing growth opportunity. And I choose to enter speech contests. Dennis does those as well quite successfully. But he took a break from those speaking contests in order to serve and grew tremendously in that pathway. So we want to let you know, go beyond your club. Take advantage of the learning and leadership options Toastmasters provides, because if you want to get everything out of Toastmasters that you can, you'll
never get out of Toastmasters.
Thank you all for your time. Thank you, Dennis, for the opportunity to speak with you. Always a pleasure, sir. And for the rest of you listening via recording, have a good time and please go beyond your club.
Brendan, thank you so very much. I will talk with you soon.
Thank you, sir. Good night.
Hey, thanks for watching. Remember, you can view the videos anytime you like.